guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be the start of my February book club vlog. I will be reading An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon and sharing with you guys all of my thoughts. I'm gonna go start reading this and then I will check in and let you guys know my first impressions and initial thoughts. I'm really excited to start this. Okay, so I just finished the first couple of chapters and it definitely jogged my memory of the first time I tried reading this book. I think I read like 100 pages of it and it's kind of coming back to me, but wow. First chapter is pretty brutal and it really throws you into this world head first, and it does not shy away from letting you know the brutality you're getting into. And also I really like that so far there hasn't been any like info dumping. The world building, at least from what I have read, has been kind of like slowly given, and I don't feel like I'm being bombarded with this new world and everything that's going on, so that's nice. My first impressions on the main character are that I really like them. I don't know what pronouns they use because it's very obvious that they are non-binary, so for now I'm just gonna use they, them until I find out. But Aster also seems kind of on the autism spectrum. That could just be me reading into it at this point, but that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. But yeah, so far, first impressions, I'm really liking it. I definitely feel like this isn't going to be a particularly fun, uplifting read, but I kind of knew that going into it just because of the subject matter. So I'm now about 100 pages into the book and I wanted to talk about a couple things. So my copy of the book I received from Page Habit. So inside it there are a bunch of post-it notes from the author giving kind of like behind the scenes information. So I kind of wanted to talk about those for a second. Firstly, the topic of gender is explored a lot in this book. A lot of the Tarlanders, who are the lower class Black citizens, are intersex or non-binary, and different levels of this ship identify with different pronouns. So like on one level all the children are referred to as she, while on another level all the children are referred to as they. On page 20 it says, due to a broad range of hormonal disturbances, Tarlander bodies did not always present as clearly male and female as the guards supposed they ought. This explained Aster's hairiness and muscular build despite being born without the external organs that produce testosterone. There's a note that says this could really happen. In the Dominican Republic, for example, frequency of certain genes leads to a high rate of intersex traits. So that is something that I found really interesting that the book is kind of discussing. The next one is about a character named Theo, who we were just introduced to. He is a surgeon and he's pretty high ranked up in the class system, and Aster is his assistant. They have some sort of relationship which I'm excited to explore more. He is a very interesting character because I believe one of his parents is Black and the other is white, and he's white passing, so that's why he's given a lot of privilege and status in this society. There's a note that says that Theo was originally named Mordecai, which I think I prefer the name Theo in the context of this book. Mordecai is a cool name, but like for the character, Theo just fits better. But yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about Theo. He seems like a super interesting character from the little bit that I've read from him already. And then the note that actually made me turn on the camera to start talking was that chapter 8, there is a note that says this was originally the first chapter of the book. And so as I was reading it, I was kind of like seeing it through that lens, and I can see how this would be a really cool first chapter. But there's something that happens in this chapter that is super upsetting, and I feel like already having 100 pages of backstory on this world and these characters, the stuff that happens in this chapter just hits harder than I think it would have if it was the first chapter. So I am glad that it was moved. Where it is in the book right now definitely makes it a lot more impactful. So yeah, I'm gonna go read some more and then I will check in with you guys in a bit. Okay, so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about Theo because he's becoming one of my favorite characters in the book. He's super devout in his religion and it's kind of like an internal conflict with him. But one of the reasons why him and Aster are so bonded with each other is because previously, Aster had been categorized as someone who would be great for breeding purposes because a lot of people on this ship can no longer have children, and she was marked as someone who could. And so in order to protect her, he agreed to perform a surgery to remove her uterus, which was illegal. And he also helped her friend have an abortion. Also, I wanted to talk about Giselle for a second because Giselle's a very interesting character. I don't really know how I feel about her. Sometimes I really like her and I feel like I relate to her most out of anyone in this book. But then other times I'm like, oh my god, this girl is so annoying, which is something that often happens with me when I find characters that I relate to. I usually think they're annoying, so don't know what that says about me, but at this point in the book, I'm like 200 pages in, and on the one hand, while I'm really enjoying the world building, like this whole ship and the slavery and the class system that is built in it is really well constructed. I'm not exactly sure what the plot is. It seems to just kind of be wandering aimlessly with no real direction. There is kind of this mystery around Aster's mother. She committed suicide right after Aster was born and left all these journals, and at the beginning of the book, Aster discovered that the journals were actually in code and her mother might have been poisoned. And so she's trying to like decode these clues that her mother left her, but I don't really know how that plot is like fitting into everything else because it kind of seems like anytime Aster discovers a clue, it was just like by pure chance or luck. So yeah, I'm a little bit confused about that, but I am really liking the world. This book is really reminding me of the movie Snowpiercer with Chris Evans, which is a movie that I really love, except this is on a spaceship and that one is on a train. There's a lot of similarities, which I'm enjoying because, like I said, I really love that movie. I just had to turn on the camera for a second because something really sad happened and I'm trying not to cry, so I feel like if I talk about it, I'll distract myself from crying. They fucking executed a child. I'm trying not to cry. You're not gonna cry. You're fine. We're not crying. I'm not crying. You're crying. Yeah, that was really sad. I don't exactly know if this was the best book to try to read in a day because I'm feeling a lot of emotions, and normally, like, I want to finish this today, but normally at this point I would stop and like let myself feel all my feels and then not pick this book up for like a week because I'm really fucking sad. But I'm gonna power through it and we're just going to not cry, okay? So it is the next day and I finished An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon. I'm ending up giving this 4 stars. Let's just go into all of my thoughts. My favorite thing about this book was definitely the world building. I thought it was done so well and it really did what it set out to do, and that was create a representation of American slavery in a sci-fi setting. And like I said earlier, I didn't ever at any point feel like info was just being dumped at me. I think the world building was given in such a natural way. No information was ever given before you needed it. That's the type of world building that I personally like. And I thought it was really fascinating to have this take place on a spaceship where escape is literally impossible. And it really tied to themes of slavery where slaves were trapped in their situation with no escape. And in this case, they literally were trapped with no escape. There was no other place they could go because they're on a spaceship in the middle of space and there's nothing else to go to. Another theme that was explored in this book that I really liked was colorism. The ship is divided in between levels A to Z, and within that, the higher class citizens are on the upper decks and the lower decks are filled with the lower class citizens who are the slaves. In those levels, it is mostly people with black and brown skin, whereas the upper decks are pretty much all white people. And like I mentioned with the surgeon, he is mixed race, but because he is white passing, he is given those privileges. And while this book is majorly about the Black experience, it is also a lot about the queer experience. Like I mentioned, a lot of these characters are non-binary. Aster is non-binary and also queer, and Theo is non-binary, and so the queer experience is very much deeply tied into this as well. There's a quote from Aster that I highlighted and I really loved. It says, "I am a boy and a girl and a witch all wrapped into one very strange, flimsy, indecisive body." And I think that really sums up Aster's identity. I also thought it was very interesting how the lower decks really lived in like non-heteronormative communities. Most of the people were queer, and it wasn't, to them, it wasn't seen as anything strange, whereas the upper decks were very much confined to their gender norms. And that was something that I just thought was very interesting, and it kind of brings up the topic that gender norms are something that are taught, and that you grow up with those being ingrained into your mind because of your society. So with all of that, with everything that I loved about this book, my one critique or negative is that the plot was just almost non-existent. I was also very disappointed with the ending. It was not nearly as satisfying as I wanted it to be. Like, I genuinely didn't even realize the book ended, and then I turned the page and there was no more, and I was confused. That's why I'm giving it 4 stars instead of 5. But overall, I really loved this book, and I'm glad this was my first book club pick. So definitely let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this. I'm excited to see what you guys thought. I apologize if this vlog is not the best that it could possibly be. I'm still trying to figure out what is the best way to be doing these book club vlogs, so I promise they will get better as we go. And if you didn't already know, the March book club book is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden, so definitely if you want to pick it up and read it along with me, I'm so excited to read this book. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!